On this episode of Hit the Mats podcast, the planet's champion has taken a leave in order to meditate amongst the sequoias.
Leave.
He might be injured. I'm very sad. Backlash has been renamed, and Luke Harper has requested his release from the WWE. Want to know more? Stay tuned!
Tonight's main event. Welcome to Hit the Mats. In this corner, from New Milford, Connecticut, your WWE mentor, Dan the Man Maloney, and his opponent from Toledo, Ohio, the filthy casual himself, Chris Holcomb. Let's get it on.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Hit the Mats podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Chris Holcomb.
And I'm Dan the Man Maloney.
And we're here to run you through all the saucy deets on everything WWE Wrestling this week. For those of you unfamiliar with the show, this is your weekly WWE Wrestling podcast, where Dan, your diehard fan, and I, your resident filthy casual, run you through the latest news, review the latest WWE products, and discuss a topic about the world of wrestling for your amusement. We haven't done that in a while, because we've had so much catching up to do and so many pay-per-views to do. So we've had to cut out the topic of the show for a lot of episodes. We'll see how we do today, because we got to go through all the Superstar Shakeup, and then we got to do some shows. So, apologies if we don't get to a topic again, but we're trying to keep these episodes kind of consumable, would probably be the right word.
Brevity is key.
Once they become too long, I can't upload them in a single portion to our web host, and it's a problem, because then I have to split it into 2 episodes, like I did a few episodes ago. So, yeah, we'll try to keep everything trickling out at a regular pace. If you enjoy what you hear, be sure to hit like and subscribe down below on our YouTube channel, and rate well elsewhere. It really genuinely does help us out and find more people to join our little group and our listenership. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/hitthebooks, which you can contribute if you so choose. If you don't want to, that's perfectly fine. We enjoy having you listening, watching, and enjoying our show. Anytime you want to talk to us, you can talk to us on Twitter at HTBVids, on Facebook at facebook.com/hitthebooks. You can email us at hitthebooksvids, VIDS, at gmail.com. You can also check out our website, htbvids.com. Again, that's htbvids.com. where we have links to every feed, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, YouTube, you name it, it's all on there. We've been trying to add to some other ones that are a little more quirky, but it's taking time because they're just some distributors don't have their P's and Q's really quite right yet for an RSS feed, so it's a little bit of a pain in the butt. And, of course, if there's any requested feeds that you prefer to listen to, just hit us up on Twitter, and I'll see if I can't make that happen for you. And, of course, be sure to check out our comic book show, which we also have weekly. We've had a lot of comic book movies coming out between Endgame and Hellboy and Shazam, of course.
Captain Marvel.
Go see Shazam. Captain Marvel's fine.
It existed, though.
If you want to know who that lady in Endgame is, go ahead and watch it. But yeah, it's quite a season for superhero stuff, and we're going to have a huge dry spell. So I imagine after we get all of these reviews done, which you can check out on our YouTube channel and on our podcast services, there will be regular episodes returning with covers of the week and variant covers of the week and all that store. Again, hosted by myself and Emery Saunders. And we have a new Patreon that has crossed the threshold for having a shout-out as a producer on the show. I want to give a shout-out to Heather Reap, who has contributed a certain amount that gave her a certain tier, and she will earn our gratitude, of course, and a shout-out on the shows for this month. So, big thank you to Heather Reap. Really appreciate it. We have 2 sisters, so I can't say best sister in the world, because then it's just rude to our other sister. But,
she's definitely up there.
She's up there. She's top 2 for sure.
Exclusive club.
But yeah, thank you, Heather. for that contribution. All right, let's get into the show. So this week we're just kind of real quickly maybe talk about the big important points of the go-home shows after WrestleMania. Because again, they weren't necessarily the best shows in the world because they're just go-home shows, and it's for the smarky crowds that are in New York.
Smarkamania
And
was running wild.
There were some nice little surprises and one title change, which was kind of surprising, but it basically told you what was going to happen at
Right.
Superstar Shakeup.
Right.
So that was there. And we'll talk about some news items, and then we'll get into the regular show, which will be going over all of the Superstar Shakeups, and then talking about this week's programming for SmackDown, Raw, 205 Live, NXT, NXT UK. You name it. We got it. All right, so before we get too far in, let's go ahead and talk about some news, because there was some significant injuries to come out of WrestleMania. And then one injury that came out post-WrestleMania. So let's go ahead and go through those.
Yeah, so the most significant one right now is to the planet's champion, Daniel Bryan. Not exactly sure the nature of the injury. All of the reporting...
They're being very tight-lipped about it.
Yeah, the reporting I'm seeing is they're keeping it really a small circle around Daniel Bryan as far as the people that are even being allowed to be aware of what's going on with him. But it has kept him off TV since WrestleMania. He is still advertised for future shows in the coming weeks, so they haven't removed him from the ads that they're sending out for those shows, so that's hopeful. But because of the fact that he has such a severe concussion history and he just came back a year ago from ending his career because of his concussions, that's always a major concern, so let's hope it's nothing with his head.
Yeah, that's my thought process immediately. You know, if he tweaked his arm or his shoulder or his back, you know, then I think they wouldn't be as tight-lipped about it, and they wouldn't be as, you know, quick to, you know, leave him on the promos because they're unsure. You know, I really hope this isn't the case because I love Daniel Bryan. I love the Planet's Champion gimmick. The person is just awesome, you know, in real life, and I love watching videos with him in him because he's just such an interesting guy.
And I said in a previous show, I think he's the best overall professional wrestler on the planet. So that certainly counts for a lot.
And clearly he loves being a father and all that stuff. So I'm sure, you know, he's concerned about being sentient as he ages, you know, with his kids.
Absolutely.
And having to worry about CTE. I really am concerned that this was a head injury that he's concerned about, and that's why he's been taking this break. And I worry that he's considering retirement again, you know, on a more permanent basis, obviously, just because, you know, he does have to think about his kids. He is up there in age, you know, compared to most of the roster. And he's had an awesome career, but, you know, if you had to retire once because of head injuries already, you were already on the verge of just, you know, being in danger of, you know, long-term issues, you know, permanently that may be irreversible. And I hope that's not the case. I hope it's something, you know, relatively minor and, you know, something that doesn't concern his brain. But just the way they're acting about it and behaving about it, that's what makes me think that that's not the case, that it may actually be, you know, some type of head injury, and he's considering his options before he returns.
Yeah, I mean, if he just has some kind of sprain, it doesn't really make a lot of sense that they would be keeping it as close to the vest as they are. But it could be that it might be something that is threatening to his short-term future, and they're not totally sure where it's going to go, and maybe for that reason they don't want to cause any kind of panic or concern, or start ripping them off of their ads for their coming shows, or, you know, have to report to their stockholders that one of their biggest talents is going to be out for an extended period, which, you know, they're already referring to superstar absences in their earnings calls with stockholders about attributing some of the downturn that they've had with their revenues and the TV ratings as a result of all of these injuries. So I'm actually just trying to pull up. There were several injuries that came out during WrestleMania weekend. Another one I know is Nia Jax, who had to have double ACL surgery, so both her knees were destroyed.
Insane.
I don't know if it sounded like it was something that was cumulative over time, but to have both surgeries right after WrestleMania, you know, it's, you know, I don't know if she had something that was lingering, that was exacerbated during her match there. She did go up to the top rope, which is unusual for someone like her to get up there. So I know that she's going to be out for a long time with that. And then Rhea Ripley was revealed to have some kind of foot injury. I think possibly a broken foot. I'm not 100% sure the nature of the injury, but she's expected to be out 8 weeks. So that'll be 2 tapings of
which
NXT
is a
UK.
bunner because we were so high on her.
Yeah, and she had just started a feud with Piper Niven, which was something I was really looking forward to seeing.
Yeah,
that would have been a really fun women's hoss fight, which you don't see a lot of. So that's pretty disappointing too. So a couple of injuries. I know that Sheamus hasn't been seen recently. We don't have
a lot of rumors that he's injured as well.
Yeah,
but no confirmation.
Right, there are whispers about what could be going on with him, but there aren't really anything confirmed yet. But the fact that he's not been on TV, it does seem concerning. And then Big E tore his meniscus during last week's SmackDown, the WrestleMania Fallout show SmackDown.
Gotta wonder if he did it doing all those splits.
Yeah, you know,
he kept doing the splits.
He was too big a man.
He was just begging for trouble.
Yeah, so he claimed that it happened during the main event match. But I'm not 100% sure on the timeline for a meniscus tear. I think it's something like 2 months or 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, something like that. And then I know that AJ Styles came out of WrestleMania with a hip injury, so he was injured during that match. He was not on the Fallout SmackDown show after WrestleMania, so something to keep an eye on.
Spoiler alert, he shows up on what we'll be reviewing.
And wrestles a lot, so presumably he's just fine. A lot of injuries all came out at one time after WrestleMania. So
kind of insane.
Yeah, just wild. And so wishing the best for Daniel Bryan, wishing the best for Sheamus. Don't really have more details on them right now. But hopefully those guys are able to return to action soon, because they would be big losses.
It does kind of showcase, again, the need for an off-season, especially after the biggest pay-per-view of the year, where you're there all day long, probably there all week, preparing and rehearsing and just destroying your body. Obviously, you have to do shows before and after.
Yeah.
You know, immediately after.
Or if you're Alistair Black and Ricochet, you have to do Friday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday.
It's insane. You know, I think everybody involved would benefit a lot from an off season. You would build more hype for the return of the show on the networks. You know, it's just like the first games of the NFL season. Everybody is fucking watching the first week because they want to see what's going on. They're happy football's back, proper football, and they want to go watch it. And it's a big event for everybody involved. I think wrestling could benefit a lot from it. I'm not saying, take off the an entire section of the year, but maybe take a month off or something. I think that's reasonable, and that would keep the networks happy.
I think that's a good topic to have as a big topic one of these weeks, because there's a lot to unpack there. I do think that the big challenge for them is that the reason that their TV shows are so valuable, the reason that Fox paid $200 million for SmackDown, the reason that USA paid $365 million for Raw for the same period of time, which was just to put that in context. USA was paying $100 million or $150 million per year for both Raw and SmackDown, and now we'll be paying $365 for 5 years of just Raw, while SmackDown will be paying, it wasn't $150 million per year, it was over the course of 5 years. So they had a 5-year deal where they had Raw and SmackDown for $150, and in the same period of time, USA will now be paying $365 just for Raw, and Fox will be paying $200 just for SmackDown. So. The reason that the primary driver of that is that WWE is one of the few shows that's able to deliver a large live audience every week. So that's the challenge that they have as far as their business model. So I've always thought like they can have a sort of rotation schedule. They'll just put people into groups, and this group will take 6 weeks off at a time, and then once that's up, another group will take their 6 weeks off, and then another group, and that way everybody gets their time off, but they're still delivering the product every single week. Which, and the way that they've built up the brand to be the star of the show more than any particular star, that would be beneficial to that, and that even if your Roman Reigns isn't there, if the brand is the star, the brand's there every week. So I think that might be a solution to that problem. But
I think just pitching something again, maybe we can go more in depth on the topic.
It sounds like a lot.
I think it'd be cool if they took like the the smaller rosters, the NXT UK, maybe NXT, and then 205 Live, and just took those guys and had a month where they were the main show and they were battling in a tournament to see who would be ascend to the main roster, and they're all fighting it out to ascend to the main roster, and that gives like casual audience like myself more of an opportunity to get familiar with these different characters that they want to push into the main roster, instead of just changing their names completely and making them show up randomly on the main shows, like they did with the Viking Experience.
We'll be talking about that, I assure you.
I think that would be pretty cool, and you would still have your shows every week, and you're going to get awesome wrestling because everybody knows NXT has awesome, amazing wrestlers, and same with 205 Live with the high flyers and whatnot.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent on those secondary brands.
I think you could benefit a lot. You give the main roster guys who do a lot more shows than the NXT and 205. Well, yeah, 205 Live guys maybe not, but again, you could give them a lot more of a break, and then the smaller crowds can get more eyes on them just for that month, and I think it would benefit the entire business overall. And probably benefit a lot of the wrestlers that don't get any spotlight because it's so crowded with talent, so frequently. Looking at you, SmackDown.
Yeah, there's definitely a problem with they've just got so much talent that they don't know what to do with, and then none of them are getting time off. Instead of they're paying them to sit in catering, it seems like they need to give some people a break. Next news item, Backlash, which was scheduled for San Jose in June, has been, first it was canceled. They just pulled it. They just scrubbed its existence from the world.
Yeah.
And then apparently it's now been renamed. So WWE put out a trademark for Stomping Grounds a few weeks ago, a trademark request, and obviously that was granted because now it sounds like there will be a show in June called WWE Stomping Grounds, which instead of San Jose will take place in Tacoma, Washington. Meanwhile, there was an NXT TakeOver scheduled for San Jose the weekend of Backlash, which has apparently just been shelved for the time being, and no replacement has been announced. So
I kind of wonder what the issue is behind the doors. Just out of like an interest in the corporate structure there. I wonder if it was an issue with the city and they couldn't get zoning or something, or if they were making noise has warrants or something.
It sounds like it has something to do with the Saudi Arabia show that's going to be taking place in June now. So they have a deal to do
damn it.
Saudi.
It's always the Saudis.
It's always the Saudis. I don't know what kind of deal they have with the Saudis where the Saudis just tell them when to come and then they have to come, because that's what it seems like. Because
when they have trillions and trillions of dollars.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of money. It's just, I would have assumed they would be allowed to say, hey, we're going to have this in 6 months. We'll be there in 6 months. But the fact that they would reshuffle their schedule in this way and scrap a bunch of shows apparently to work around, suddenly they decide Saudi Arabia needs to happen in June. That makes me wonder if the Saudis just told them, we want you here in June, so come in June. And they're like,
I hope it's not an outdoor venue.
So I wonder,
why would you want to be in Saudi Arabia in June?
Ooh, yeah, that would be terrible.
In the middle of the summer? That's a terrible idea.
Yeah. No, I imagine it'll be at the whatever the name of the stadium is that's named after their horrible authoritarian regime. Hopefully they don't propagandize on behalf of the Saudi government this time. It seemed like they might have been cleaning that up after the backlash after the first Saudi show. Yeah. But thank you, Saudis, and people of San Jose. You just got screwed out of 2 shows because the Saudis have to be taken care of, even though the people that are paying the money in Saudi Arabia for these shows to happen don't actually know who anyone is. Apparently the last time they came to Saudi Arabia, high-ranking Saudi officials that organized the whole thing were asking where Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan were. So that's about their knowledge of wrestling, that we're just sacrificing the whole schedule to bend to their needs.
I wonder how they feel about some of the best wrestlers in the WWE right now, and legacy-wise, were Iranian. I feel like that would be a sticking point.
Yeah. Actually, I think it was. There was a Saudi show a few years ago where I believe the Davari Brothers, who were Iranian, came out with an Iranian flag and were waving around as a heel move.
Wow.
And apparently there was some heavy heat.
Wow.
And apparently as they were leaving the stadium, their safety was threatened. So that did not go over well. So that is a concern for sure. Yeah. I don't think the Davari Brothers have been back to any of the Saudi shows since that time.
Yeah, and it might not have been the Saudi show. I think it was. Mustafa Ali, who's Pakistani, there was outrage from the Pakistanis that were fans because they wanted him to come out with a flag as well and represent Pakistan. But he said, he quoted something like, I think, nationality is divisive for people, and I'd rather be uniting people or something along those lines, which is cool. I love Mustafa.
He's
Ali.
living the gimmick.
even without the gimmick, I like the guy.
He did, yeah. He's a great guy. He's a great guy.
So I just wonder how much inside fighting there is with the organizers and whatnot, just because of all these politics and whatnot.
This whole Saudi situation is super depressing and gross. And the other news item, Luke Harper has requested his release, as we mentioned in the intro. He hasn't been used since he came back from injury. He's apparently been healthy for a couple months now.
Yeah.
He didn't even show up at any house shows until about a month and a half ago, where he showed up and wrestled like one match. And since that time, he wrestled at Worlds Collide and had a match against Dominik Dijakovic, which was an awesome match. But that's about all he's done. And he is 39, and he's made clear that he thinks he has a couple good years in him, and he wants to get the most out of him that he can before he's over the cliff and can't go anymore. He's got a family and kids, and he wants his kids to see him wrestling and be capable of still putting on good wrestling while they're at this age that they can appreciate it, which they weren't at that age a few years ago. So it sounds like he wants to make the most of his time right now, and sitting and catering in a WWE locker room is apparently not the best use of his time. He did post a very affable, amicable message. He did not bash the WWE. He was very sincere and authentic and how he's feeling, and announcing that he did request his release, which, is also a way to get a little leverage towards getting that release granted if everybody knows about it. So, but a very heartfelt message, and I hope they grant it to him instead of forcing him to stay on the roster for a while and then not use him during that time and devalue him and take away one of his last years. And unfortunately, I am hearing some whispers that WWE will not only force him to stay for the rest of his contract, but will actually add time to it because he was out injured, which is something that John Oliver covered on Last Week Tonight, where they have a clause where they can freeze your contract for the amount of time that you're out injured, and he was just out for months, so they might even tack that on if they're going to be really mean-spirited about it. I hope that's not what they do. They are exercising their muscles with these contracts a little bit more lately, with AEW on the horizon and getting ready to start a weekly TV show.
That's what I was going to bring up.
That's pretty concerning.
With both him and Sasha, primarily. I think they're a little afraid of AEW. Not in a, they're going to bring us down entirely type of way, but more in a, they're going to take a big chunk of our market if they succeed. And we don't want that. We don't want another WCW rival, for a decade. Although it kind of resulted in kind of the best era of WWE, at least classically. I kind of wonder if they're just going to be dicks about it from here on out, because AEW is premiering in May. Their events are almost here, and they already have a ton of older WWE exiles and people that just left the company.
And they've got some elite talents too. They've got the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega over there, who some people think is the best wrestler in the world. So they've got some, and if they can grab a couple names from WWE that people know, that is more eyes from the WWE audience specifically. They're already going to have a nice core smart crowd that's going to be watching them out of interest. But that crowd would be watching them in WWE no matter what. If you can grab some of those casual fans by grabbing a Dean Ambrose, by grabbing a Sasha Banks potentially, by grabbing a Luke Harper, that'll help them. And I think,
and they got a billionaire behind them too.
They do. They have the funds. They have a guy that's richer than Vince. They've got $100 million in seed money. And I think and WWE has been kind of hit and miss on these release requests. So they granted one to Ty Dillinger. They granted one to Hideo Itami. They granted one to, I'm not sure if TJP asked for a release or if he was just released, but they've granted a couple, and then they've said no to a couple. They said no to the Revival, and the Revival responded by just saying, well, fine, we'll just wrestle for the rest of our contract, but we're not signing a new deal. Which, speaking of which, apparently the Revival will be meeting with WWE again to discuss a potential new contract. They've already been offered a boatload of money to stay, and so far they've said no, so we'll see if they can get any movement there. But WWE has definitely been a little hit and miss, but for the most part, their strategy has been lock everybody up for as long as possible. Even if we're not going to use them, we just don't want the competition to have them.
Yeah, exactly. Which kind of sucks from, a star standpoint and from a fan standpoint, because you don't get to see them.
Right.
And a lot of them are in the prime of their careers, and we're not seeing them because contract issues and competition fears. So it kind of hurts everybody involved.
It's a bummer.
And honestly, I think it's going to hurt the WWE in the long run, because you're going to alienate so many of these private contractors you hire. Contractors,
not employees.
So it's a problem. We'll see if it ever gets solved. I doubt it, but at least as long as Vince is in charge. So I think that's all the news, correct?
That's all the news.
All right, so just real quickly, let's talk about the main talking points from the Smarky shows. We had the New Day come out, and Kofi challenged Seth Rollins for the belts to take both belts, kind of in a Becky Lynch, mirror episode.
Kofi 2 belts.
And then they had their match, and then, as you would expect, an interruption, and it didn't matter, so nobody gets the belt. And
but as you would not expect, the freaking bar.
Yeah.
For some reason, why
randomly.
Do they care?
Yeah, I guess the bar just wanted the belts to stay separate for some reason.
Okay.
And then, of course, the Smarky, this is bullshit.
Yes, of course. Yes.
But
CM Punk in protest.
What did we really expect? Lars Sullivan has been showing up on pretty much all the shows, just destroying people randomly. Whoever he wants, really. Women involved. Yeah.
Or as I like to call him, the Mr. Tumnus experience.
We have the ongoing, extremely cringeworthy Becky 2 belts thing that's been forced down our throats for a T-shirt opportunity.
They've got T-shirts to sell. They've got 2 different Becky 2 belt T-shirts.
It was so obvious that Corey literally said, "That sounds like a T-shirt."
Yep, it is.
And now it is.
Yeah.
And
Poor
of course,
Becky.
they've been forcing it every week.
Poor Becky.
And it was so awkward, and I hate it.
It's not her fault. Poor Becky.
It's bad. We had Dean Ambrose with his final match in the WWE for now.
Which was not a match.
And it was garbage. He faced Bobby Lashley. And nothing happened. So what was the point? I did enjoy the line, be sure to take care of your wife for you.
Oh, yes. Lashley. Really
I was like,
digging
damn.
in there.
Like, damn. I dug that. It was a nice little part by Lashley. And there was some weird chants going on that I thought was kind of funny. There's some, "Thank you, Ambrose, you still suck." It was just
chanting at Baron Corbin to shut the fuck up. It's pretty good. I gotta admit. I really do like smart
crowds are fun.
They are. They're a little dickish at times with the CM Punk and everything, but then at other times they're just hilarious and great. So I really like smart crowds. And any smart crowd beats Lafayette.
Lafayette was
Go watch Lafayette
awful.
again if you have a
By the
problem
way,
with smart crowds.
SmackDown, we're going to it tomorrow, is coming to Columbus for the first time in 4 years.
4 years.
How is that possible?
I don't know.
This is a huge market.
Yeah.
And they're awesome WWE fans in Ohio.
Yeah, Raw was here last year. They've had pay-per-views and they've had Raw here.
Yeah,
but they haven't
and house
had,
shows.
Yeah, and house shows. But for some reason,
NXT.
SmackDown specifically.
We had NXT here.
Yeah, NXT was here. Fastlane
but
was here a year
SmackDown
ago.
just avoids us like the plague, apparently.
Yeah.
So really hoping that we got a good crowd tomorrow, because I want them to come back.
Columbus crowds are
'cause
usually
SmackDown
solid.
is the best show.
Yes.
We had Sami Zayn return from his injury,
Fantastic.
and it was fun. He
Yeah.
had his first match was against Finn Balor, and it was really fucking tits.
Really good
and
match.
I enjoyed it.
And a fantastic promo afterwards. I absolutely love this heel turn they're going with for him, where he's just going after all of us smarks that ruin the product by constantly tearing it down and criticizing everything. I just love how aware he is of it, and he's such a good promo. I really, really like this character work from Sammy.
Yeah. So just some good stuff all around. Again, great smarky crowds. We had an appearance from The Undertaker, which
The
was
Dead
really
Man.
awesome. He came out and basically killed Elias. So that was fun.
Did.
That was fun.
He did.
And that's pretty much all we got from Raw from that week. I think I mixed up my notes on this one. There we go. Okay, so SmackDown, we got the whole celebration for Kofi, basically. Ricochet did their thing. And then we got some random RKOs out of nowhere.
And a random KO stunner out of nowhere, too.
On Rusev.
Which, by the way, Rusev is the best seller of the stunner in the business. If you've seen his WrestleMania stunner that he sold against Steve Austin, he did the same thing for KO this time, and he's just so perfect at it.
Yeah.
He's a savant at the stunner sell.
You got to do the springboard.
Yes,
It's the only way to sell the stunner.
The Scott Hall style.
Yeah. We had various people. We had Samoa Joe attacking people for the fun of it. We had Shane O'Mac coming out with a black eye, which was fun.
We did have a monster movie moment with Samoa Joe and Braun Strowman fighting each other, so that was interesting. I don't know why Braun was there. I guess it was just supposed to let everybody know anything can happen. I think is pretty much this message they were going for, but seeing him brawl with Joe briefly was very B monster movie, and I dug it.
Yep. And so the only big things that came out of this is that the Hardy Boys took the Usos title belt, which basically told everybody, hey, the Usos are moving.
Yeah.
So
why else would they drop it on TV?
It was just a really weird time to do it.
Yeah.
So obviously that's the reason why the Hardy Boys are the SmackDown Tag Team Champions now. Again, we had Becky Lynch come out and again do the Becky 2 belts thing, which is awful, and I hate it, and I want it to go away, just like I want Lacey Evans to go away. Lacey Evans came out and continued to... came out and did their little feud again, which did happen on Raw, but continued on SmackDown because that's what we need, more Lacey Evans.
Yeah, that's the rest of SmackDown.
And then we had the New Day fight the Bar and McIntyre. McIntyre just appeared, I guess. And,
McIntyre just disappeared halfway through that match, which was interesting. I guess they decided they wanted to protect him, so they just pulled him halfway through.
That's fine, I guess.
And just hope no one would notice.
You know, whatever. I said it was cool, but it was really sloppy all throughout. And
we lost Big E.
Yeah, we lost Big E in the match. So, but you got Big O because of it. So
got Big O. Love Big O.
Hopefully you feel good about that.
Big O fan.
205 Live, we just had some stuff going on with Gentleman Jack Gallagher and Humberto Carrillo with their mentor, Gulak, who was being a dick, and eventually leads to a whole feud between them all.
There's a story on 205 Live, everyone. There's an actual story.
And it's actually pretty fun.
I like it.
I enjoy it.
I like it.
And then we got another Buddy Murphy versus Tony Nese match, which was pretty good, but
I thought it was much more than pretty good.
I felt it should have been on WrestleMania.
Yeah, it blew the WrestleMania match out of the water.
Yeah,
which was nice.
It was an awesome match, and I loved it.
It was fantastic.
I felt like the pin was kind of anticlimactic at the end, though. I felt like it just suddenly came to an end for no good build-up reason. I don't know. I like a little bit more build-up at the end there, and there just wasn't any crash. It was just great match. Then it gets a little slow, then it ends. And I was like, oh, okay. Then NXT, nothing really big happened. The Street Profits got the opportunity for the tag team title match, and that was it. I gave it a pretty low grade.
No, the Street Profits faced European Union.
Yep.
And I thought that was a really good match.
I hated it.
So you can feel free to watch that.
I thought it sucked.
Okay. I've never thought a European Union match sucked, and I didn't think that one did. We disagree on that.
I'm not a big fan of European Union, and Street Profits I like a little more, but that just wasn't their best match in my opinion. So that was pretty much it. Again, the only real thing you got to be concerned with from the Smarkamania was the title exchange between the Usos and the Hardy Boys. And then that led into the Superstar Shakeup. So
yeah, everything was kind of in a holding pattern to prepare for the shakeup, I think. So that's why there weren't a lot of real plot developments.
Yep. Really, the only people that were doing some big time wrestling were, Kofi and the New Day, and the Bar and Ricochet. Seemed like they were doing a lot of the heavy lifting for both of those shows, while everybody else just kind of did congratulatory stuff and then feud beginning stuff and then Superstar Shakeup, hinting stuff. That was about it. So first day of Superstar Shakeup, we got Raw. We got Triple H and Seth Rollins coming out talking about things, and Triple H addressing how Seth Rollins is the champion, and that has made a target on his back.
Wrong week.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Yeah, you're right.
This one started with Stephanie and Shane.
I don't have notes then.
Oh.
I don't know where they are.
Shall I lead?
I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So to start Raw this week, we had Stephanie and Shane McMahon coming out to hype out the Superstar Shakeup. I thought we had a pretty hot crowd, which was immediately evident in loud CM Punk and "You Suck" chants.
Which has been going on for like 3 weeks up to this point.
welcome to Montreal, Shane and Stephanie. Montreal, always welcoming of those McMahons. They just love the McMahons in Montreal. It's a good welcome for them. That promo went way too long, I thought. I thought that was part of the reason the crowd started getting really hostile, was just that they were going on, and nobody
that's the problem with Raw.
To say. Yeah, exactly. Raw is the king of long, useless opening promos to start every show. Yep. But eventually, the promo was interrupted by The Miz being the first announced move in the Superstar Shakeup. The Miz,
which he
has
does
come
every
to Monday
year.
Night Raw. So The Miz showed up, attacked Shane, got himself busted open, was bleeding pretty bad. Towards the
which
end of
made
that
an
segment.
awesome shot, which I'll probably use for the thumbnail.
Yeah,
it was an awesome shot where he's got the blood streaming down his face. Shane's retreating, and he's got the chair with the dent in it from where he bashed Shane.
Yeah, pretty badass.
Awesome.
He
I
looked
loved
pretty badass. So obviously the Miz Shane storyline will continue. I think Miz will be a great addition to Raw. I think Raw has been lacking in charisma as far as its personalities go.
Yep.
Seth Rollins has a ton of talent, but not a lot of charisma. Roman Reigns does not have a ton of charisma. It seems like besides Elias, there really wasn't a ton of charisma on Raw, so I think that The Miz will definitely bring that in spades. So I thought that was a good first pickup to kick it off. After that, the next announcements, Ricochet and Alistair Black were both announced as members of Raw permanently. Something that was really annoying about this whole night was that Michael Cole didn't seem to know if anybody was really coming to Raw or not. Every single announcement basically...
To be fair, they reneged on a lot of it.
They did renege on some of it, but every single announcement, he basically just said, "Are you kidding me? Are they coming to Raw? Is this happening? Is this really You tell me. I'm the viewer. You're presenting this to me. Why don't you tell me if it's happening?"
Yeah,
so
that's a problem.
It was every single one was the same reaction from Cole, just being bewildered. Is this really happening? Yes, it's really happening. Ricochet and Alistair Black to Raw. They teamed with what I'll call Rawkins, which is Ryder and Hawkins, the reigning Raw Tag Team Champions, against Revival and the main roster debuting War Raid Viking Experience.
Oh, no.
Wow.
The internet was not happy, and neither was I.
When I heard the theme music, I was marking out, and the second I saw that name, my marking was instantly killed.
Well, how are you going to change the name when the fans are all shouting, "War, war, war"? Yeah. They're literally shouting their name.
Yeah, they all know who they are. They're literally the reigning NXT Tag Team Champions. They are reigning champions in your company right now. You put the titles on them.
It's a problem.
Corey Graves was certainly throwing some shade about the whole thing throughout. I think he acknowledged how ridiculous the whole thing was. He said things like, you better learn these guys' names because they're here now. And
we already know their names, and it is not what you were trying to force them to be.
Everything I'm hearing is that this is a total Vince thing. Shocker. Apparently, they had another name change in mind for them, which was the Berserkers, which I would have been cool with. It's still not as good as War Raiders, but I would have been cool with it.
It's fine.
I don't know why they don't want
They're
War Raiders.
already in the WWE in some way, shape, or form. We don't need to change their name.
I don't really know why they felt the need to change the name, but if you're going to change it, you got to do better than Viking Experience. It sounds like a Swedish male escort agency.
You're not wrong.
So they did make their debut, though. I thought this was a fun match, and I'm calling them War Raiders. War Raiders got the victory with their tandem leg drop finisher, the Fallout. So they were made to look strong. They pinned the champs. So I like all of that. Apparently they are going to be heels on the main roster because they did have a heel role in this match, which I think suits their characters a little better anyway.
And I did note that Ricochet is finally getting some chemistry going just in time to be broken apart.
Yeah, it works out perfectly. Well done. But yeah, War Raiders got the pin. So we got Miz, Ricochet, Alistair Black, and War Raiders at this point in the show. Before we moved on to our next match, it was also just announced in sort of a throw from the announce table that Cedric Alexander is coming to Raw.
Yeah, coming from 205 Live, the face of 205 Live, really.
Yeah, the franchise player.
I'm glad he's going to the main roster, but I got nothing on my Hulu cut, and that sucks because he's so awesome, and people have no idea what they're what they're in for.
Yeah, he's
again,
such a good performer.
The disrespect.
Yeah.
Disrespect.
Such a good performer. I do worry about him because he is just one of many people that doesn't have much of a character and doesn't have much going on the mic. He's another guy just totally lacks charisma.
Amazing in the ring,
but
not
is an
so much
incredible
outside.
performer.
Yeah.
So I worried he'll get lost in the shuffle for that reason. But if you haven't seen the guy wrestle, watch out for him on Raw because his matches are just unbelievable consistently.
Yeah.
He's a phenomenal overall athlete, one of the most talented in-ring performers in the company. So hopefully he doesn't get stuck in catering. I would like to see him be a regular contributor. So we'll just keep an eye on that.
Absolutely.
Then we had a match between the Intercontinental Champion Finn Balor versus a debuting Andrade to Monday Night Raw, which means Zelina Vega also to Monday Night Raw.
Course.
They put out a really good match, I thought. Yeah. I thought this was really, really good stuff from the two of them. I was a little surprised to see Andrade pinning the champion. He did. It was
of course,
dirty.
It's because Vega interrupted.
It was dirty, but it was surprising to see the champion get pinned. I think that is something that people complain about a lot. This is the second match, and in both of the first matches, the champions got pinned.
Yeah.
So I understand you need to make the new guys look good to build them up, but it is concerning when your champions start racking up those losses in non-title matches because it does not make the belts look good.
No.
But in isolation, it was fine, and it was a really good match.
I didn't mind as much just because of the dirty play. You know, if not for Zelina, then okay, yeah, I'd be like, that's kind of shitty. But they've also been shitting on Andrade and making him eat pins left and right for about 2.5 months or so. So it's good to see Andrade get a nice little push and have a great match with Finn Balor.
Yep.
And after watching Finn Balor fight these fucking assholes on Raw for weeks and weeks with Bobby Lashley and Braun Strowman, Drew McIntyre, just the slow giant brutes.
Yes.
That's not what Finn's good at.
Yeah.
You know, he brings out the best that he can out of those guys, but you know, let's face it, it's just not a great matchup. You know, having him face a dynamic guy like Andrade just brought out the best of both of them.
Totally,
and I thought it was awesome.
Yep, absolutely.
So it was great to see that Andrade on Raw. I was like, oh wow, this is going to upgrade the show a lot.
Yeah,
but it doesn't stick. Spoiler for the following week.
Unfortunately, thanks a lot, Charlotte.
But we might get to see more Finn Balor Andrade matches.
That's true. Possibly in the future for reasons we don't yet know. Okay, then we had an Elias promo. He, of course, had to go for that cheap heat, as he always does. He is the king of cheap heat. Took a shot about the Canadians not being in the playoffs and got some nuclear booze.
Yep. And there was a lot of Canadians jerseys in the crowd.
Yeah.
You're already out of the playoffs. Why are you wearing Canadian
Montreal,
jerseys?
Man. It's always Canadian
Wear
season.
WWE stuff. You know, if you got relevant sports teams, okay.
See, I don't mind it when they're in the building of the team. That's my only exception that I make. They're in the Central Bell. So I was okay with it. What I didn't like was all the Canadians jerseys we saw in the WrestleMania crowd in New York City, which is retarded.
Like, I am a big Blue Jackets fan. The Blue Jackets are currently 1-1 in the second round of the playoffs after sweeping the President's Trophy winners.
Insane.
I will still not be wearing a Blue Jackets jersey to a wrestling show tomorrow.
No.
Which is at Schottenstein, which isn't Nationwide Arena, but they are playing a game at the same time, and I'll probably be looking on my phone in between matches.
If you're spending $50 on a ticket, spend $15 on a shirt.
Yes. Enjoy it. Wear a hat. Wear a hat if you have to. I'll wear my hat.
So this promo led into Rey Mysterio being the next announced member of Monday Night Raw, who came out and beat up Elias a little bit. So another addition to the mid card, more talent on the mid card. I thought.
Then we had Lars Sullivan come out and
we did
do things.
I thought coming into this, Raw's biggest needs were tag teams and mid-carders, and so I was really encouraged right off the bat up to this point that everything they added to start was tag teams and mid-carders.
Yeah.
So really good start for Raw, I thought. Then, yes, Lars Sullivan made his appearance to beat up Rey Mysterio because Mr. Tumnus just beats people up at random, seemingly untargeted. He's just a roaming monster for the time being.
Yeah. I was a big fan of this move because I want to see more Rey Mysterio versus Andrade stuff. Mm-hmm. Now it's not going to happen, but it was the thought process in my mind when I was watching, and I was really excited when he came out.
Yeah, I still think it'll be an important addition that Raw really needed in that mid card because I just can't stand much more Bobby Lashley, Finn Balor, which seems to be all their mid card has had. Meanwhile, SmackDown has had one of the best mid cards of all time the last few months, so they definitely needed some of those guys.
Yep.
They needed some of those guys. Next, we had a tag match. So we had Glorious come out, cut a little promo about wondering if there were any any tag teams that wanted to step up to the plate.
Yep.
And so, welcome to the Uso Penitentiary. Of course, thanks to WWE's TV truck people, the Usos' debut on Raw was spoiled for the home audience because they introduced the Glorious as the Usos. But the Usos showed up to Raw as we expected when they dropped the belts to the Hardy Boys a week prior. And again, more excellent talent for the tag team division where Raw really, really was lacking.
I will say this. The Usos got the win in the end, but they made Glorious look really good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Glorious was dominating most of the match, and they looked awesome.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. I appreciate that the Usos, in a lot of their recent matches, have, even if they win, which they usually do, they still make everybody else look awesome.
Yep.
And they don't mind putting their egos in a box for a match or two. And
total pros.
I love it.
Total pros.
I love it.
They make their opponents look like $1 million, and that is total professional behavior. I will say so this was a short, decent match. Obviously, they didn't have a ton of time. The Usos pinned Chad Gable with their double splash tandem finisher. I will just take another shot at Michael Cole. Do not make Uso crazy a thing. Please, Michael Cole. You are way too lame and dorky. You're making the Usos uncool with your Uso crazy. Yeah. Do not make that a thing. If I start hearing that every single week, I'm going to blow my brains out.
I was tolerant of Michael Cole, but then after hearing the whole Pat McAfee incident, now I just hate him. I just hate him. Before I was like, okay, I understand why he's there. He's been there forever. I get it. Fine. I'll just tolerate it. It's fine. You know, obviously Corey Graves carries the show for the most part.
Yeah.
I'm so sick of him now.
I just can't.
Now, not only do I see him as kind of a shitty announcer that's just been there for legacy, but now I just don't like the guy.
Yeah.
I just straight up don't like the guy.
He just doesn't. He just always finds something to cling to, and he just beats it into the ground until you can't take it anymore. And if that becomes Uso crazy, it's the worst Michael Coleism yet. After this, we had a Moment of Bliss segment with Sami Zayn, who got an enormous response from the Montreal crowd. Enormous. They were all singing his theme song.
Danced his music three times.
3 times. He danced all the way to the ring and then back up to the ramp before hitting the music a 3rd time when they sung louder with each progressive time. So the Montreal crowd, obviously, we expected they would give huge receptions on both nights to both Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, who are the 2 prides of French Canada and wrestling. So that was really, really cool that he soaked it in.
I did put my notes. Zayn is disgustingly Canadian.
Very, very Canadian. And he looks it with his stupid whatever kind of hat that is. And great stuff. Soaked it in, soaked in the love. Really fun party atmosphere when he came out. So I love the fact that they gave so much time to let him really fully lean into it instead of trying to rush him through. So that was great. When he did his
turn in the audience, they instantly abandoned
no problem.
him. No.
Yeah. It was so perfectly done by Zayn. He just had the crowd in the palm of his hand from the second he came out, just playing up their love, playing up the love, just fully getting everybody on their feet, getting the electricity at a maximum high just so he could shit in their faces and just totally destroy the party. It was just so fantastically done by Sami to get maximum love when he came out and turn it into maximum nuclear heat. So another great promo from him. I love this character that Sami's doing right now.
I'm loving it too.
It might be the most compelling thing on Raw for me right now. I love this Sami, so can't wait to see more of him.
He's gonna be on Raw, but I kind of wish he was on SmackDown just so he and Daniel Bryan, hoping that Daniel Bryan comes back, could have their own little kind of villainous, like criticizing the audience for being polluters and wasteful. And
you people. They're both people.
Yeah, I love it. I think I have a type for villain casting.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you like people that hate people because they remind you of you.
It's accurate.
That's pretty much it.
There was also some nice crowd trolling from Andrade earlier, where they talked about how, Andrade was also multilingual. Yeah. And he will address the audience in their native tongue. And then he just starts shouting insults in Spanish.
He just said, like, bonjour. And then he went right to Spanish. It was such good trolling.
I enjoyed that. Just a side note, but I enjoyed it a lot.
That was hilarious. Okay, so next. So earlier in the night, there was actually a promo where the IKonics, who are growing on me, came up to Bayley and sung her, "Hey, hey, Bayley, ooh, song to mock the fact that Sasha Banks wasn't
it's
there.
So fun.
So Sasha Banks wasn't in the house. Bayley was portrayed as trying to get a hold of her and not getting the calls answered and not getting calls back. IKonics came up to kind of rib her about Sasha's absence, which we'll talk about later. And Bayley essentially snapped at them and said, if you guys want to fight, I'll see you in the ring and I'll find another partner. So foreshadowing there would be another move. That move turned out to be Naomi. So we got Naomi and Bayley versus the IKonics. It was okay. I'm not a huge fan of any of these four except Bayley when it comes to in-ring work. I think Naomi is good, not great. She's just she's a B player.
Wow.
She's a B player, which I don't mean insulting.
Wow.
No, not even B+, B.
Wow.
I don't think she's that good. I think she's very athletic and has a couple cool moves in her arsenal, and she did win this match with her split leg and moonsault, which is the coolest thing in her arsenal. I don't think she does great emotional character work. I don't think she tells a great story. I think she just kind of hits some cool stuff and then hopes that carries her. And I'm not a fan of the IKonics in the ring at all, particularly Billie Kay, who is just...
I like them when they're doing their whole shtick. As long as they're sticking to their shtick, I enjoy it.
Their in-ring psychology is fun because of how good they are at immersing themselves in their snarky, annoying characters. Yeah. But
Peyton Royce is pretty good, though.
I think Peyton Royce is okay. I think she's passable. I would rate her average. Billie Kay is egregiously bad, though, and that brings their average down for me. So just not a fan of any of these people in the ring except Bayley. But Naomi got the pin, like I said. So Naomi's on Raw. That was the next announcement. We got Naomi.
Yep.
Then we got Bray Wyatt's puppet making an appearance again.
Now, is this an established thing that I'm unaware of? Because as I was watching this, I was like, "What the fuck is this?"
I think Mercy the Buzzard.
Awkward.
I think Mercy the Buzzard has been seen before, affiliated with Bray Wyatt in some way, but hasn't been a major part of his gimmick before.
Okay.
I think he has had something to do with Mercy the Buzzard in the past, and any of our audience members can correct me if I'm wrong, or maybe they can. If any of you know more of the background there, maybe you can provide it to us. But basically, just so far, it's Mercy the Buzzard coming out of a steaming box and laughing is all we've got so far. Yeah. So we'll see where that goes.
Bray Wyatt's another guy that came back from injury, had some great appearances, and then just disappeared again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We saw him twice. No one else has seen him.
Yeah, we saw him live.
We saw him twice. No one else has seen him at all.
Yeah.
So don't know. We'll see where they go with that. Next, we had EC3 versus Braun Strowman. EC3 and his position deep within Vince's doghouse continues to be confirmed every time he makes an appearance. On the rare occasions he makes an appearance, didn't even have a match, just got pummeled by Braun Strowman all over the ring, then up the ramp, and then got powerbombed off the stage. So EC3, I don't know what you did, but you better see if you can maybe send Vince some edible arrangements or something to see if you can try to smooth that over, because he's clearly not a fan.
He didn't get to talk pretty much at all.
Didn't get to talk. No.
But he's on Raw, I guess, so yay.
So just obviously a jobber at this point after being the top guy in Impact. It's a shame. So as Braun Strowman was leaving, the Man made her entrance and kind of looked at his handiwork in a way I thought was pretty amusing. She kind of eyed him and then looked at EC3 over the stage, was like, not bad. Yeah. And then just kept walking.
Yeah,
so
I
thought that was a fun moment. So the result of the Man cut a brief little promo, Becky 2 belts, blah blah blah, slap the head off Dopes. Typical, same promo every week. Her Twitter game is so good because she has creative control there, and yet on TV they script everything for her, and then she's just slapped the head off Dopes, Becky 2 belts, and nothing else.
I just don't care anymore.
So the results, the Man came out for a match with Ruby Riott. It was a decent match, I thought. Not great. I thought it could have been better considering how good Ruby Riott is, and Becky is somebody who is physically limited in the ring, but can put on a really good match when she's got a good opponent and tells a really good story and does good character work, as good as anybody, I would say, in the women's division. But this match was just okay. Felt like it could have used more time. But ultimately, Ruby did tap to the disarmor. And then Becky did wipe out the rest of the Riott Squad post-match, so the Riott Squad continues to look totally incompetent, which, is fine because, spoiler alert, they are no more.
Yep.
So I don't know if you want to comment on that before I move on to the rest of what happened in this segment.
Got nothing much to say.
Nothing. There wasn't a lot going on.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
I don't care about Becky anymore. I'm just done.
It was fine.
And it's not because of her. It's because of the way this has all been handled.
One of the best performers that they've had in a while, and they are just totally taking all the fun out of her.
Yep.
We had Natalya arrive, which was kind of random, but she decided to step up and challenge Becky for her Raw Women's Championship. Becky was getting ready to accept that challenge before, as usual, the interrupter of all interrupters, Lacey Evans, made her way to the ring.
Fuck Lacey Evans.
Which was also confirmation that Lacey Evans is assigned to the Raw brand. She challenged Natalya to a number one contenders match. I hate to tread on this territory, but I'm going to have to say nice things about Lacey Evans real quick. Sore subject.
I also have to acknowledge that there's some fun aspects about the thing.
I thought her promo to challenge Natalya was
not
really good
anymore.
Yeah, I thought her promo was really good. I really thought it was entertaining. I think she is good at the acting and character part. I don't love her character. It just seems kind of retro. It doesn't feel organic.
I think that's the point, though.
But as far as the character goes, I think she's doing as well with it as you can possibly do. I just really, really liked her promo here. It got me actually kind of interested to see more from Lacey on the mic because I thought it was a good promo. And then I thought the match with Natalya wasn't that bad. I didn't think it was great, but I thought it was okay. Yeah. And the finish with the moonsault, I thought that was a sick moonsault from Lacey Evans to finish this match. That was a really nice move. So to start the match with what I thought was a really good promo from her, and then to finish the match with this moonsault that I haven't seen from her before, that was really well executed, I thought.
Yeah.
It got me a little more interested to see more of Lacey Evans.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot. All right. I got to take back some of the stuff I've been saying.
Goose Fraba.
And my rage about Lacey Evans interrupting everything and taking away all the momentum of everything for months, where she would come out, do her stupid wave, and then walk out for no fucking reason and just take the air out of everything that was happening. If this ends, all that pageantry bullshit, I'm all about it. I enjoy the color kind of sophisticated Southern belle, going up against the rough and kind of revolutionary Becky Lynch. I think it's a cool dynamic, and I get it's kind of old school, but I actually enjoy it for that reason, because it's obviously playing up the contrast of the women's revolution with Becky Lynch and her kind of badass, don't care about what you think attitude, and the exact opposite with Lacey Evans, kind of Southern belle, where we care about appearances and all of these things. And
it's almost a microcosm of the culture clash, like even broadly beyond wrestling, where you've got the strong, independent, I'm making my own way. I'm not just the top woman, I'm the man. I'm even top among the men too. Like I am totally blazing this trail and totally don't need anyone.
And then you've got
opposite the mother who goes on Twitter and talks about, oh yeah, I just finished work and then went home and made my husband a sandwich like a lady should do. So you've just got a microcosm of the culture clash going on here, and both are so good on the mic that they're able to hold up these two characters in such a powerful way. I really like the dynamic. I do.
So I'm actually, as much as I hate to admit it, I'm actually enjoying her dynamic with Becky Lynch. I'm not enjoying Becky Lynch's side of it because, again, they keep pushing this corporate kind of look to her and this corporate performance and the T-shirts and the fucking quotes that we're trying to sell. I don't like, but the whole dynamic, alpha versus beta, kind of dynamic going on, I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I even like the name of her punch, her sucker punch, the woman's right.
Yes, the woman's right. Yes, that is one of the best name finishers there is.
Playing into what this whole dynamic is.
Yep.
I'm loving it.
Yeah, I am too. And usually right after WrestleMania with your top champ, you're going to get a filler feud. And if this is the filler feud, this is as good a filler feud as I think you're going to do before you move on Becky to face somebody a little bigger. And it's a good test for Lacey Evans, who's brand new, who's still pretty green, didn't even have a ton of time in NXT starting from scratch. So it's a good test for her. Let's see if she can hold her own. But so far, I think she has.
Yeah, so I give Lacey Evans a lot of credit. She's playing the character well. I kind of wish she would play a little bit more into the Southern Belle thing, like a little harder on the accent and everything. I don't think she's quite got it. It's a little too subtle right now, but I'm still enjoying it a lot. So.
Yeah, me too. And then in our main event, we had scheduled Lashley, Corbin, and McIntyre, or as I call them, every villain is Lemons, to go against the wet hair experience, Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, and a mystery partner. That mystery partner, I think most of us had an idea of who it was going to be.
Yeah.
They almost accidentally revealed it in a promo earlier, but didn't quite. AJ Styles, the phenomenal one. So this will be the big acquisition for Raw. Certainly the biggest star that they acquired in all of this.
For sure. Who is supposedly injured with the hip injury.
Supposedly.
But, he was wrestling a lot.
He was.
So
I guess he's okay, which is good.
Yep.
Good to see the phenomenal one. So they had a pretty decent 6-man tag match. And at the end, of course, the new guy always has to get the pin. So Styles pinned Lashley with the phenomenal forearm, which I guess is becoming his finisher. I kind of complained that he pinned Randy with the phenomenal forearm at WrestleMania, but now he's pinned Lashley too. So I guess it's slowly becoming his main finisher for pins.
I don't know.
So that was fine. And
it's just like a step above the Superman punch for me, though. I'm just not about it. Just don't like it that much.
But I think he's a great acquisition for Raw. I think he really needed to change the scenery. He had kind of grown stale on SmackDown. He had kind of done everything there was to do there. And this opens up the possibility for AJ Styles and Seth Rollins, which is something.
New lands to conquer.
Yeah, and everybody's been hoping for Seth Rollins and AJ Styles for a long time, like since AJ was signed to WWE, and now this opens up that possibility. Yep. So excellent. Good for him. Good for Raw.
Yeah, I think it was a great move.
So just to recap, Raw's haul. From the Superstar Shakeup, they picked up The Miz, Ricochet, Alistair Black,
subject to change,
War Raiders, Cedric Alexander, Andrade, Rey Mysterio,
subject to change,
the Usos, Lacey Evans, Naomi, AJ Styles, and announced later Eric Young, because Sanity is also no more, just as the Riot Squad is no more.
Yep.
As for the show, I gave it an 8.0. I thought the in-ring action was really quality. I thought the matches were generally really good. I liked pretty much everything except the McMahon's opening promo, which was way too long and boring, and they deserved the hostility that they got, I thought. Natalya is aggressively boring when she has a mic in her hands. I didn't love that. EC3 Strowman felt like a time waster, and then the ruination of the War Raiders in the form of the Viking Experience.
Yep.
But even though that sounds like a lot when I say it all back to back, that was actually a pretty small part of the 3-hour show.
Yeah.
So I gave it an 8.0, and I think it was the best Raw of the year for me so far.
Yeah. I would have given it an 8.0, but I hated the Viking Experience thing so much, I docked it a point.
Yeah.
So I gave it a 7.
Yes, okay, that's fair. So moving on to SmackDown, we open with the Kevin Owens Show, the talk show in the world of wrestling. Humongous reception for Kevin Owens, just like Sami Zayn the night previous here in Montreal. KO did briefly say a couple lines in French. I thought it was kind of odd that they didn't let us know what he said, because you would think
no subtitles.
It was just like something just for the 15,000 people there and nothing for the 2 million people watching at home, which I thought was kind of strange. But
whatever.
Apparently, what he said was something to the effect of, "This is my WrestleMania," because obviously I'm the hometown boy.
Yeah.
So expected. Kofi was the guest. Xavier Woods joined him, and some pretty funny plug of Up, Down, Down from Xavier Woods, complaining about
shameless plug,
complaining about the. I know that the Miz has appeared on Up, Down, Down several times. Ricochet has recently become a regular contributor. Alistair Black has been on Up, Down, Down. The Usos were core members of Up, Down, Down. So complaining a little bit about the move of all those guys, and just saying, I hope we get to hang on to Breeze on SmackDown. So that was pretty funny that they slipped that in there. And the big part of this segment was Kevin Owens proposed that he wants to be the newest member of the New Day with the absence of Big E.
Yep.
He thought about Big K as his potential replacement name, but then decided because it's funnier, he wants to go with Big O.
And he then squeezed himself into Kofi's tank top. And it was horrendous and hilarious, and I loved it.
And there was the greatest coronation that anyone has ever seen, as he went down on one knee and was granted a unicorn horn to make official his new role as an initiate to the New Day. I just wrote down this was the greatest professional wrestling segment of all time, and don't at me.
About that, though. But yeah, it was pretty fun.
Fantastic. I was rolling laughing through this whole thing, so it was awesome. Our first big announcement for SmackDown, Finn Balor has been acquired by SmackDown Live, the Intercontinental Champion, showing up.
Finn getting a lot of work.
Yeah,
had his big match with Andrade on Raw, and then immediately had his big match with Mustafa Ali on SmackDown.
Yeah, they gave good time to both matches, too. They weren't short ones.
I gotta say, Finn looks great in blue.
Finn looks great doing
great
anything,
blue.
To be fair.
I mean, the red was fine.
He is a living thirst trap.
The blue looks real good.
And he knows it. So yeah, good match with Ali.
Yeah.
There were some dueling chants early. I mean, they were mostly Finn chants, but it was nice to see Ali had some crowd support too.
Yeah. I did put in here, I was kind of bummed that we won't get a modern Styles versus Balor match.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a bummer.
I would enjoy it. That's why I was kind of excited about AJ Styles more than anything. I was like, oh, we can kind of get back into a little bit of that, background stuff.
Yeah.
But they just like,
that was a
never
bummer.
mind, we'll send him to SmackDown.
Yeah, that was a bummer.
It's probably better overall for Finn Balor because
Yes.
now he has something to do.
He was another guy that just had done everything and needed that change of scenery.
But I'm kind of disappointed we won't have an
Yes.
AJ Styles Finn Balor
Absolutely.
matchup at some point.
Maybe a power struggle over the Balor Club would have been cool. But yeah, awesome match. Finn wins with the coup de grace, so a champion got a win, which was a nice change of pace.
Yep.
So Finn Balor acquired by SmackDown, which means Samoa Joe will be going to Raw. They didn't make it official here. Samoa Joe is actually out with a case of the flu, like severe flu, so he wasn't on TV this week.
Yeah, you don't want a big man pooping on you.
No, you don't. Not at all. Ask Brock Lesnar. If those
Big
of
Show had some
you heard that
explaining
story
to do.
this week. So yeah, Finn Balor to SmackDown. Samoa Joe will go to Raw. So we swapped the mid-card titles. So next up, we had Big O starting his New Day initiation with a pancake eating challenge. Had to eat an entire plate of pancakes, which I'm pretty sure if he had actually eaten them, he'd be dead. But I appreciate his spirit and his moxie. And, to be able to go out and wrestle in the main event after eating 50 pancakes, pretty impressive. I admire his commitment.
Yeah, he's got a gut of iron, that man.
And then we had R-Truth and Carmella arrive, and this was to set up a match between Carmella and Charlotte. I think this will be one of the areas we disagree on this week. I thought this was a solid match. I thought this was one of Carmella's better singles matches in a while, really.
Okay.
I thought there were a couple of spots that could have been better, but I thought some of the work they did around the barricade was really good. I thought Carmella came out looking pretty strong. I think this was kind of trying to keep some momentum going from her win in the Women's Battle Royal at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
It seems like they want to keep her. It seems like they don't know what story they want to put her in yet, but they want to keep her feeling formidable. So this felt like it served that purpose. They gave them a lot of time for this match, which I was surprised by. But I thought it was pretty good. Mella did end up tapping to the figure eight, which Asuka did. So there's not a lot of shame in it.
For me, that's why I think it didn't matter, because I think it made Carmella look again like a throwaway character for Charlotte's rampage. Because again, we must push Charlotte at all times.
Yeah,
because Charlotte is the brand.
That is really obnoxious.
For Vince.
That is obnoxious.
And
I would just disagree in that. I think
in my
that
notes
Carmella,
I put it was a match. It was a match. I didn't hate it. Didn't love it. It was a match.
Yeah,
but
I thought Carmella looked really competitive, though. I mean, I expected her to lose to Charlotte in about 6 minutes, and they win a good 10, 12 minutes, and she gave Charlotte a lot of offense, and so I thought Charlotte was selling her really well and trying to make her look as good as she could in the course of beating her. But yeah, I am getting a little tired of people that are just starting builds end up losing to Charlotte, and it kind of takes the wind out of their sails. But I thought the match was decent.
And then we had Tumnus come out.
And then the Mr. Tumnus experience showed. You like that one, don't you?
I do. I almost want to call it Tongueness because he also does this.
Oh, yes. Boy, I'm not a fan. Came out, destroyed R-Truth pretty brutally, left Carmella alone.
If, like one of those garden gnomes had gotten like the super
Took
soldier
steroids.
serum. Yeah.
Yeah, like, if you turn one, like, that Captain America experience gone wrong on a garden gnome. So, yeah, he beat up R-Truth. So that was about that. And Lars Sullivan is officially a member of SmackDown, we know now, which it sounded like he was a member of Raw. But
whatever.
They changed their minds, which is very rare in WWE, but apparently it's something that happens. We got Bray Wyatt and his puppet make another appearance. Mercy the Buzzard is his name. Whatever.
It's fine.
Then
we hadn't seen Bray Wyatt himself up to this point, though. We just saw the little
his creepy
puppets.
toys, Then we had, for the women, the man arrives, cuts another promo, Becky 2 belts, slap the head off you dopes. Interrupted by Ember Moon, who is the next announced acquisition to SmackDown. Like I said, going into Raw, the needs for Raw for me were mid-carders and tag teams, which they beefed up on a lot.
Yeah.
And for me, the need on SmackDown was they needed women on SmackDown.
But they need specifically villains, and they added plenty of women, but they didn't add many villains.
They didn't, and I think part of that, I think it's just Charlotte Flair. unfortunately. As usual, she just kind of eats everything. So it looks like she's going to be the big bad in the women's division on SmackDown. And they brought in all these faces probably to feed to her, hopefully not to feed them all to her. I would like them to, maybe some of them could score a win. I don't know. But Ember Moon to SmackDown, good addition. Really needed that. She cut a quick promo saying that she wants a shot at Becky's title. Then we got my girl Bayley to SmackDown, another acquisition. I thought this was a pretty big one just because she is one of the 4 horsewomen. She's never been on SmackDown before. Fresh start for Bayley. I thought she was real stale on Raw and has been stale on Raw for a long, long time. So I was really welcoming this move. She brings, again, the SmackDown Women's Division just needed some credible competitors. All they have is Charlotte, Becky, and Asuka right now, and that's it. They needed somebody that could credibly compete in a title match where you feel like they can win. And regardless of how badly Bayley has been booked for a long time and how stale she's been, she's still Bayley. She's still one of the big stars of the women's division. So she brings immediate credibility to the division, I think, and brings a credible challenger that you can throw into the title scene, and it won't take much building of her. Someone like Carmella, you'll have to build over time. Bayley, you can build in 2 weeks. You can just make her go out there and beat somebody. It'll be believable, and then she'll be a title
I was
contender.
happy about this for one reason and one reason only. It breaks up the tag team with Sasha, because I didn't think their tag team was very good.
I didn't either.
And I thought it was a waste of both of them.
Yeah, I think they're 2 of the best talents there are. I think Sasha Banks might be the best women's wrestler on the planet, but for some reason when her and Bayley were together, not only were their gimmicks incongruous, so the team just didn't make sense on its face, but they did not have good in-ring chemistry. They were just caught thinking different things with their tandem offense way too often, and it resulted in a lot of botches and ugly spots, and it just did not work. And I think Bayley has needed a fresh start for a while, just another person that really needed to change the scenery, really needed to start fresh somewhere. So I love the move for Bayley to SmackDown also.
Yeah, for sure.
So they both end up confronting Becky, wanting title shots. Then we get the IKonics interrupting obnoxiously, as they always do. As they always do, mocking Ember and Bayley on their way to the ring.
I did put they still crack me up in my notes.
Yes, they are funny. They are funny. Got to give them that. They are growing on me slightly because of their character work. I wish they were a little better at the wrestling. Now, we did have last week after WrestleMania Paige foreshadowing that she would be bringing a new team to SmackDown to challenge the IKonics for those titles.
She throw us a red herring there.
She came out and revealed that team, which turned out to be Asuka, which this was odd. Paige said 2 brand new members of SmackDown and then introduced Asuka. So
yeah, it's a little weird.
Odd wording there. And then Kairi Sane, who my number 1 favorite wrestler in the company, I think. I love Kairi Sane. I think she's one of the best women's wrestlers on the planet.
I think they're going to be an awesome tag team.
Yes, Kairi Sane has been ready for the main roster for a long time, I think. I think she probably could have come up at any time since she lost the NXT Women's Championship.
Yeah.
She is just somebody that can pull off a real white meat babyface character so well because she's so lovable.
She is nothing but white meat babyface.
She's just so lovable. Like it
would be very hard to heel turn her.
You would not, and the fans would not turn sour on her because she's just so lovable. She's so likable. She's so charismatic. She's just somebody you can't bring yourself to boo. So I've said before, I think there are a very small number of people that can pull off a white meat babyface where they're just a good guy and have no edge and no aggression and no sort of malice towards anybody. There aren't a lot of people that can pull that character off without crowds turning on them because they want that aggression and that edge that you like in a lot of that you like in your favorite characters.
Yep.
But I think Kairi is one of those very small number of people that can pull off a white meat babyface. So, and I do think her and Asuka will be a great team. Obviously not having the language barrier will probably be helpful to Kairi, that she'll have someone that's right there with her at all times as she gets used to the main roster.
Yep.
She's obviously got familiarity with plenty of members of the main roster already, but it'll be nice to have that supporter, especially an industry veteran and one of the greats in Asuka also.
For sure. And then they had the red herring before the introduction, of course, with Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville.
Oh, yes.
Where they were the ones that came out initially thinking
yeah.
Paige was talking about them.
Well, Absolution back together, maybe? You know, that's what you were thinking.
And then Paige went, nope.
Yeah, nope, not
Japs.
Not yo. So, Ask Kyrie, as I'm calling them, although I am also...
Kyrie ass?
I am
Is
also...
that what you're...
Ask Kyrie. Okay,
right.
Ask Kyrie.
Kyrie ass? All right.
You know, your mind is so dirty, and I am offended.
I'm just waiting for your Freudian slip there to reveal your true intentions.
I love me some Kyrie in all possible ways.
He's a big fan of Kyrie ass.
Big fan of Kyrie Sane. Ass. So yeah, I look forward to them as a tag team. They did have an 8-woman tag team match that resulted from this: IKonics and Fire and Desire versus Kyrie. Or I'm also playing with the name Pirates of Tomorrow. The Pirates of Tomorrow plus Bayley.
Tomorrow ain't bad.
Pirates of Tomorrow plus Bayley plus Ember. Kyrie did score the win, pinning champ Peyton Royce with the insane elbow. The best finisher in the women's division.
Yep.
Don't care what anybody says. Nobody's going to tell me different. So good, strong first showing from Kyrie in her debut. Yep. Bayley also, I thought, looked really good in this match. She hit a bottom rope suicide dive on 2 people, and she hit it really, really well. And I don't like most suicide dives. Like 90% of them I just don't think look very good. But I thought this was one of the rare ones that
it's
looked
hard to
pretty
pull
damaging.
it off like in a way that looks like it hurts.
Yeah.
Because you always got the guys cushioning you on the end.
Right.
I understand it's difficult to do.
Yes.
But it just doesn't look very
It
impressive.
never looks impactful.
No.
Seth Rollins has the worst one where it's just like, I mean, that's some two-hand
He just
touch.
kind of floats
That's
through.
some flag football two-hand touch suicide dive. With just like, no. But I thought that was a good one. I thought this match was decent. So good debut for Ember Moon and Kairi Sane. There was an announcement. Buddy Murphy to SmackDown has been acquired. So that was the next acquisition for SmackDown Live. Great acquisition. Amazing performer. Solid promo. Needs some more work there, but is much further along than your Cedric Alexanders and your Tony Nese's.
Buddy Murphy's great. So if you've been watching 205 Live at all, and I have, because I've now watched 6 episodes.
This is our cruiserweight expert, self-proclaimed.
So I just wanted to let you know, you fickle people out there, you casual, the filthiest of filthiest casuals.
No one knows 205 like
I've graduated.
This man right here.
I mean, I'm built for it.
Yeah,
I'm built for it.
It's true. He's very small. So good addition for SmackDown. I hope that they find something for him to do. I can think of a lot of things he can do. I want to see Finn Balor versus Buddy Murphy yesterday. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. But Buddy Murphy to SmackDown. Then we had our main event, our main event match, I should say, not our main event segment. Yep. Our main event match with Big O doing the New Day intro. And as we noticed, he hit those R's real hard. Don't you dare be sour. So French Canadian.
Oh, yeah.
But I did think he hit the feel the power very well. So he got that going for him, came out with the New Day, did the dancing with them. I love this so much. I just can't even describe it or contain myself. So Big O and the New Day took on Rusev and Cesaro, conspicuously missing Sheamus, who we believe to be injured. Yep. Pretty fun match, 6-man tag match, pretty typical stuff. Got to see a little KO and Kofi teamwork as KO served as the springboard for Kofi over the top rope at one spot to take out all of their opponents. Yep. And at the end of this match, KO pinned Rusev with his stunner. And as I was just praising Rusev for having the best stunner cell in the business, this one was Garbaggio.
Yeah, I put right there, main point of my notes, shitty stunner cell.
Horrible.
To end it, though. I put pretty decent match.
Yeah.
Shittiest stunner ever to end it, though.
Honestly, it makes me wonder if Rusev did that intentionally badly, which concerns me. He has apparently been grumbling about his usage for a while now.
Which I would.
It makes me wonder if he was...
Shinsuke both.
I don't know if he was mailing it in with that stunner sale, but it was so egregiously bad, and he's been so good at it in the past, I kind of worry about it. So hopefully he's not just mailing in his matches at this point, because that's not going to help his case. But besides that, pretty decent match. I don't know if you want to add anything to that. Just go to the main segment.
This isn't really a match complaint. It was more of a move complaint. I'm just disappointed that they didn't move Shinsuke or Rusev. They broke up all of these well-established good tag teams, but this is the one tag team they kept together, and I hate it because it's a waste of both their characters. It doesn't make any sense story-wise because they should hate each other.
Yeah.
But now they're like best buddies, and also I hate the new trench coat that Shinsuke's wearing. He's wearing this Vash the Stampede trench coat, and it's just... It's too bright. It's too bright red, and there's nothing in it. It's just flat, long, thin, fake leather red.
You just don't understand because you're not an artist, okay?
Well, I think he's trying to hide his art because he understands that he's in the shittiest point of his career right now. With
or the best, one could argue.
I don't
big fat paycheck so he can go surfing and half-ass it in the ring.
Well,
seems like he's living the dream.
He certainly is half-assing it in the ring, and that's disappointing.
And that has been, unfortunately, a problem with Shinsuke for a while, even going back to New Japan. He always had a reputation for being the guy that you give him a big match, and he'll put on the best match you can see. But week to week, he's not putting in a consistent effort. He's always a guy that is coasted in a overtime, if he's doing stuff regularly, and then just kind of shows up for the big matches where he goes out.
It just makes me sad because I think he has one of the best villain gimmicks ever.
Yes,
and I love it.
I love his gimmick.
When he was having his feud with AJ Styles, I fucking loved it.
Yeah, I think he's got a top 3 gimmick in the company.
It just sucks. I don't like this tag team at all.
And you're right that either one of them would have been a great acquisition for Raw, which was needing to build its mid-card in the first place. So it would have been perfect to throw one of them into the mid-card over there, and you would add that talent there.
So that's not really a criticism of the match or anything. It's just my personal feelings about the tag team.
Yeah.
I was hoping more than anything that one of them would get moved. Probably more than anything. I was hoping that Finn would move, and I was hoping that one of these two would move.
Yeah. So our main segment, WWE had been announcing on social media and WWE.com that Vince McMahon would be personally coming to SmackDown to announce the biggest acquisition in the history of SmackDown Live.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of talk about who that person could be. There were some people that thought maybe he was going to say Brock Lesnar. There were some people thinking he would say Roman, and it was Roman. But first it was Elias. So
I did enjoy this.
A typical Vince McMahon troll job, as he is known to do, because he just takes pleasure in our pain. He came out, built up this long thing about how talented this guy is, what a star he is. He's a main event. He's a headliner.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Elias! And so Elias is officially a member of SmackDown, so he technically did announce a SmackDown acquisition.
Yep.
Elias was very pleased and was playing up the crowd disappointment quite a bit and really digging the screws in there.
It was excellent. Gotta love Elias.
These two total assholes just really played off each other well, in that they were trolling the whole WWE universe with this whole segment.
And it also kind of completes that Elias is kind of the favorite son within the McMahon family, as far as bodyguards and bullshit brutes go, for future storylines that we'll mention later.
And I like what Elias is doing now, that he's actually foreshadowing who's about to come interrupt him by mentioning something about their name during his promos. He did the dead man a week ago. He said the next person to interrupt me is a dead man. We got the gong, and the Undertaker came out. And then this one, he said he was going to have a long reign on SmackDown. And Roman Reigns music hits, of course. So Roman comes out, gets a pretty good reception. I was kind of impressed. I expected he would get booed in Montreal, but he did not. He mainly got cheers.
I guess the whole recovery from cancer thing, and seeing how bad Raw was without him around. I think people, as much as they hated him before, kind of recovered a little bit. And
they appreciate
him. Why you might want to instill an off season, because clearly their break helped.
Yes, absolutely.
Helped a lot.
And I've certainly come to appreciate him more. But yeah, he came out, interrupted Elias, beat him up, and then hit a Superman punch on Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
And drew some blood.
So pretty impressive.
A little bit of blood on the boss's face there.
A great sell from Vince, as usual. Even at 73 years old, he can still sell like nobody's business. He had just had a look of petrified terror on his
Doughy-eyed,
face. So again, I think this was obviously, so Raw's big acquisition was AJ Styles. SmackDown's biggest acquisition obviously is Roman Reigns. This is the biggest star in the company. I think this was a good addition also. I think Roman's another guy that needed to change his scenery.
I'm sure our buddy Caleb loved this.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
Oh, yes.
Shout out to Caleb. Congratulations.
Roman. It's always got to be Roman.
So just to recap SmackDown's final haul for the Superstar Shakeup, they got Roman Reigns, Finn Balor, Elias, Bayley, Ember Moon, Kairi Sane, Lars Sullivan, Buddy Murphy, and then announced on the website, Liv Morgan, which means the Riot Squad is no more. And if you want to have your heart shattered into 1 million billion pieces, you can watch Liv Morgan's reaction to the breakup of the Riot Squad, which for some reason WWE posted on their website. Apparently they just want us to know what assholes they are. They also picked up Chad Gable, which means Glorious is no more.
Yep.
They also picked up Apollo Crews, which is random. They picked up Mickie James. So again, more talent in the women's division.
It seems like they took a little bit too much almost.
It does. And actually,
because the biggest complaint about SmackDown is there's too many people and they didn't have enough room to breathe.
Yeah, I think that.
And, spoiler alert, they shuffle more people back to SmackDown the following week because of some personal things. And so they're just laden with talent, and Raw is once again left kind of in the doghouse, even though it's the longer show that has more space to kind of air out all of these stars.
Yeah, we got heavy machinery to SmackDown also, and I would agree. I think they did take too much. I think SmackDown desperately needed women, and they got them, but I think they got too many of them, and it's at the point now where the Raw women's division is in trouble. I think that's something we're going to talk about on the next show when we recap that episode, because the problems are immediately becoming evident with the women's division on Raw. But I think to just give an overall analysis of the Superstar Shakeup, I think both shows got what they needed for the most part. I have very few complaints. Raw needed tag teams and mid-carders. They got tag teams and mid-carders. SmackDown needed women. They got women. So I think it's all going to work out fine.
Yeah.
As for the show, I gave it a 9.0. Big O and New Day were amazing. The moves with the women were good. Good acquisitions for everybody. The main event match was good. Ali and Finn was great. I thought Mella and Charlotte was great. So 9.0. Thought this was an A show.
I gave it an 8. I loved it.
All right.
It's good enough. I liked it.
So let's just run through our secondary brands real quick.
Yeah. Let's start with 205 Live, because your resident expert is here.
Oh boy, I just can't wait to hear his expert
just,
opinion.
Let
so
you know what's up.
Us all.
And the world of the welterweights.
Cruiserweight Chris, we call him.
So yeah, again, just because I'm the expert, I'll go ahead and run us through.
Please.
So we had the Lucha House Party come out. Obviously, not all of them wrestling, just there to support their brother.
Yes, Grand Metalik.
Yep. Then we had Arya Davari come out. We had Mike Kanellis and then Akira Tozawa come out for a 4-way match. And I wasn't happy with the result, but I enjoyed the match a lot. So I will say I love the standing grappling moves. I love it. When they get down to the ground, that's when it kind of sucks, because it slows everything down, which is usually the point. But I as a person who has been in the audience a lot, like we have, especially at the ground level, you can't see a fucking thing. And 205 crowds are already kind of shitty because they're what's left over from the SmackDown crowd. And you might have some hardcore fans in there, which is great, but most of the time they're just casual SmackDown fans that happen to stay because there was still some wrestling to watch. So
I think it hurts them that they have 205 after SmackDown too, because all the stuff they came to see they've already seen, and now it's a downgrade as opposed to opening with them and having a hot crowd.
Yeah, so I'd say 60 to 70% of the crowd is gone from the SmackDown crowd, and the ones that are remaining, there's only a handful of the hardcore people.
Right.
So it just kind of sucks.
It's a bummer, because the wrestling's so good.
Yeah, and 205 doesn't have quite the pull that, say, the SmackDown or Raw does. So even if you had a rotating weekly show like the main shows do, you're not going to be able to draw those huge crowds. NXT benefits from being in one location every single week and having a smaller area to fill. 205 doesn't have that benefit. They still have the same size arenas,
18,000
stadiums, and with a third of the people. And not necessarily the most enthusiastic people. Now, with the really good matches, they really kind of win them over throughout. But again, most of these people don't know who the fuck they're watching, and they're just there to watch it. But again, this match was pretty good. I did like how hard they were kind of pushing Tozawa throughout this match. I think
love Tozawa.
I think he's kind of eaten a lot of shit recently, where he's just been eating pins and whatnot. I did say that the cruiserweight chops suck, and I wish they weren't trying to showcase that in the middle of the match. There doesn't seem to be anybody that can do good chops in the cruiserweight group, and it's probably because there's not a lot of chest to hit and not the biggest hands to make that bellowing, slap sound. And of course, again, we're in the big arenas with barely any people, so there's not a whole lot of resonance, for the mics to pick up.
They need to get some.
They need to get some dies.
They need to get some chop lessons from Walter, I think.
Yeah, it's a problem. And it was a great match, and it seemed like it was building up for Tozawa to get the win, who seemed to be the fan favorite. But Arya Davari snuck in there and stole the pin, which kind of sucks, because out of that entire group, he's the one I didn't want to win. Not because of his character, but because he kind of sucks. He's not as entertaining as all the other guys on the 205 Live roster.
Not at all.
And, I don't think he's that great at promos either. He looks like kind of like a trailer park redneck that just happens to be Middle Eastern. And that's just kind of how he's built up, and I don't like it.
Like he runs a pawn shop or something.
But the match itself was really good, and I really enjoyed the match. So
yeah, I did too. I thought especially the sequences between Grand Metalik and Tozawa were really, really good. I think those two guys have really good chemistry. It kind of makes me sad that they're both faces, so we probably won't see them against each other
probably
again.
Not, unless there's a tournament or something.
But those guys work really well together. I would just love to see those guys have a real singles match. Maybe, like you say, maybe in a tournament setting would be a perfect place to do that.
Yep.
So, I thought Tozawa looked really good for the most part. He did get the upper hand on Mike Kanellis and was going for his senton finisher. Maria provided the distraction like she always does in every single Kanellis match.
Yeah.
Kanellis hits his finisher on Tozawa. Davari comes in, throws Kanellis out, pins Tozawa for the W. So, yeah, agree. Really good match. Grand Metalik and Tozawa definitely stood out to me. Yep. Love those guys.
Fingers crossed Tozawa gets a little bit more of a push in the future. Spoiler for next week's show, he shows up again. So and with a nice little spot with his partner there.
And those of you who haven't watched, he also had a match on Worlds Collide with Jordan Devlin, which was very, very good.
Nice.
There was one crazy audience member that kind of distracted from the whole thing. But, so I'll just briefly recap this. Tozawa does his chant when he's trying to get hyped up or get the crowd hyped up, which is just, ah, 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 ah. And the crowd responds by going, ah. And there was this one guy where every time Tozawa started to do the ah, the guy would just scream, ah, ah, like insanely. Like to the point that everyone else would stop saying ah. And it was so, every time he did it, this guy started screaming his head off. They're like 100 people in the whole crowd. So it's very, very loud and obvious when one guy is screaming at the top of his lungs.
Yeah.
And at one point in the match, Tozawa had Devlin in the corner, was hitting him with some chest chops, and each one the crowd was going ah, and this guy again just shouted ah, and you actually had the camera on Tozawa's face, and he just turned to the guy and went, and then went right back to doing the chest chops, so he acknowledged it for a second. This crazy guy, but good match. So go watch it on Worlds Collide if you have time.
And then next up to end the show, we had Cedric Alexander's farewell match. They gave him plenty of time, which is a great choice because it was an awesome match.
Absolutely.
And he went up against Oney Lorcan for that final match. As you would kind of expect, they're trying to build up the other guy since the main guy is leaving, so Oney Lorcan gets the win in the end. But yeah, I have just nothing but praise in my notes. Cedric is just so good at wrestling. There was just an awesome single leg drop kick from Alexander, which was amazing. Lorcan actually showcased an outstanding power bomb for such a small guy, and I think Cedric probably played into that a lot by adjusting appropriately. So there was a badass power bomb from them. Just a really great farewell match. There's some great crowd chants. Again, the 205 crowds are usually kind of shitty, but this one did the appropriate thing.
Yes,
giving them the thank you Cedric chants.
Yes, fantastic.
And it was great. And he even got a villainous handshake,
which you normally hate,
which I do hate,
but this guy's earned it.
He earned it.
This guy's earned it. So, I agree. I thought the match was excellent. Alexander took some hard bumps in this match. I mean, this was
like I said, that power bomb was brutal.
This was a really physical match, and that's expected of Oney Lorcan, who has an extremely physical, vicious style, but there were hard strikes going in both directions. I mean, these guys beat the piss out of each other in this match. There was one cool spot that I noticed, which was Cedric went for the neuralizer off the ropes, and Lorcan caught him with an uppercut midair, which was really cool looking and really vicious looking. So match ended with Orkin hit the half and half on the ring apron, which is the hardest part of the ring, as we know, threw Cedric into the ring, followed it up with a lariat, and then hit another half and half for the W. So took a lot to put Cedric down, but you did expect him to go down, like you said, before he moves on. He's got to give someone the rub. The crowd all got to their feet. I think I was surprised that the crowd really understood what the moment was, because it would be very easy for the crowd not to be aware of the fact that this was Cedric's last match in 205 Live. It would be very easy to not be aware of the fact that Cedric Alexander has been the franchise player of 205 Live since its inception. So this moment meant a lot, and it would have been very easy for this crowd not to know that, and they did know that, and they got to their feet and they showed the respect and the thank you Cedric chants. It was very emotional,
it was awesome. And
it was a great moment. So for that reason mainly, and because of the high quality matches, I gave the show a 9.0.
Yeah, I gave it an 8. I didn't enjoy the first match as much as I wanted to, especially with that ending, but I did enjoy it, so I couldn't give it any significant negatives on that. And then the last match was amazing, so that one held most of the score for me, so I gave it a really high 8, really solid 8, almost pushing a 9 for me. Again, scores are arbitrary, but that's just how I felt. So I gave it a really solid B+.
All right. B+. So I guess I'll run us through NXT. The opening match was Velveteen Dream versus Buddy Murphy for the North American Championship. I'll just say we probably disagree on how good this match was a little bit, because this is one of my matches of the year so far.
No,
if I had a running list, it's up there. It's up in the top 6.
I put awesome matchup.
I thought that it was awesome right from the start. The psychology from both was really high level. They were one-upping each other. They were taking some of each other's moves. They were getting in each other's head. It was really, really compelling, the story they were slowly building at the beginning. And then it turned into just incredible sequences. It kind of made me disappointed
that Buddy Murphy was going to the main roster, not to NXT, because I thought he was so awesome. And he and Velveteen Dream, they just built so similarly. They're very similar sizes. Again, I don't understand how Buddy Murphy was on 205
He's
Live.
Not 205.
There's no way that man is 205.
He has 205 in his pecs.
In his asshole, maybe. I don't know. He shits out a turd that's 205 pounds. The dude is huge.
He is jacked.
There was some really cool counter sweep sequences between the two. I thought they worked really
Instant chemistry.
Yeah, they seem to have really similar styles.
First time these guys have been together.
Yeah,
you would have thought it was the 30th time.
I loved it. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Dream did score the win with the Purple Rainmaker, which was to be expected as Murphy prepares for his move.
There was some legit fear.
There was.
That Buddy Murphy was going to win it, because he was pulling off some badass stuff towards the end there.
Yeah, they definitely built the anticipation and the tension the best they could. This did get a banger rating. I don't know if that's just going to become a theme for me on this show when there's a match that really blows me away and I call it a banger, but I've used it sparingly enough that it means something.
For the year list?
I haven't been documenting the list, but if I had a list going, I think it would be.
I'm holding it off for now, but if I have to go back to it because the rest of the year sucks,
I would say it would definitely be top 5 TV match. It'll be hard because of how good TakeOver New York was to not just put all those matches on there. It's the problem. But if I'm keeping track of just the weekly TV matches, I think this was just about as good as any TV match I've seen this year for sure.
Nice.
Then we had Street Profits go to William Regal asking for a tag title shot against what NXT still calls the War Raiders.
Yep.
The War Raiders came out and revealed that they had already gone to William Regal and asked him to fight the Street Profits. So it was an interesting.
I did note that they were wearing their War Raiders t-shirts, even though they were technically the Viking Experience at this point.
Already defunct.
It seemed like a protest move almost.
Yes.
And I did enjoy it.
And
Spoiler alert for next week. They do renege on that a little bit, and it seems like going forward they're still reneging on it. So
War Raiders ain't coming back, so those t-shirts are already useless. Then we had a promo from Johnny Champion, as he is now known. Typical celebratory stuff. He was interrupted by Adam Cole, baby. I really like this back and forth between these guys. They were throwing some bombs at each other. Adam Cole called Johnny an idiot and a punk. And Johnny asked if there's trouble in his boy band and if maybe they're not in sync anymore. So
see, it's the same problem I always have with Gargano. I put it in the middle of my notes here. It said he has great lines, but he has raging bitch voice syndrome. Just raging bitch voice, and I hate it.
You know what's odd about him is he has
really perfect lines written for him.
You know what's odd about him is if you hear him in an interview, he sounds way manlier than when he's cutting a promo, and it's odd. He has that gravelly, manly smoker's voice that we all want, and for some reason when he does a promo, he raises the pitch. He raises the pitch so high. I mean, I don't think he's like Tony Nese.
Why don't you go back to your boy band?
But
he also has the worst haircut ever.
It is.
I don't know he's got like a fade, like a layered fade going on, and he's got a cowlick. So
you know what else bothers me about that is when he's wrestling his matches, it all immediately stands up, like he touched one of those orbs at the Science Museum. That's so bothers me. Just cut it short. Just go short. I don't like that either. But I love this promo. I thought they threw some good bombs at each other. Roderick Strong ended up attacking Johnny from behind. Undisputed gave him a beatdown. So foreshadowing a potential matchup between Johnny Champion and Roderick Strong.
Spoiler alert, maybe tits next week.
Maybe happens. Maybe tune in next week if you like wrestling.
That's good. It's pretty good.
Then we got basically a squash match for Dominik Dijakovic versus Aaron Fry, whoever the hell Aaron Fry is.
The guy on the street corner.
Dijakovic basically came to the ring, hit the feast your eyes. I won in under 10 seconds.
Yeah, vicious kick, and then he's dead.
And so Dijakovic was supposed to have a match with Keith Lee at TakeOver, but Keith Lee sustained an injury leading up to that, which is why that didn't happen. So this just seems like they're keeping Dijakovic looking strong so that they can circle back to that Keith Lee feud. And that's something I think if anybody saw their match at NXT a couple months ago, I think that's something we all want to see is those two. These are two enormous men that do things that men their size should not be able to do.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen Luke Harper and Dominic Dijakovic at Worlds Collide, go watch that match if you want a demonstration of what I mean. This guy's 6'7" and he does springboard moves. It's just the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I really like this guy, so I like that they're keeping him strong. And this was pretty much just a filler match. To keep
I didn't
him
like it
strong.
because I wasn't entertained and I thought it was stupid and I was like, whatever. And then he calls out Velveteen Dream.
That's right. Yeah.
Which is just a reminder that Buddy Murphy will not be having another great match again. So that made me bitter.
Yeah.
And that was about it.
So yeah, Dream versus Dijakovic, and then hopefully at some point they circle back to Keith Lee and Dijakovic. We'll see.
Yeah.
Then we did have the official promo where William Regal informed the Undisputed Era that Roderick Strong will face Johnny Champion on next week's edition of NXT. And then our main event was the final chapter of what was one of the best women's rivalries of 2018, which was Kairi Sane and Shayna Baszler.
I don't know if we're going to disagree on this or not, but
I don't think we will. I wrote down before this match even started that it's one of my favorite women's rivalries of all time. It started with the Mae Young Classic where they met each other in the final in the inaugural Mae Young Classic. Then it continued when they both moved to NXT. They traded the title a couple of times in 2018. They had a match at Evolution. And there were some really, really good matches between these two. The Mae Young Classic final was excellent. Their match at Evolution was really good. These two generally have really good chemistry, and their characters are so vastly different that it just works to put them together. It's just this badass, mean bully that is just ruthless and merciless, and then you've got the smaller, overpowered underdog, super nice baby face, and usually it works so well, and it did not work well here.
No.
It just didn't.
It was an awful match.
It was really bad.
It went on way too long, too. It was just...
Yeah. It started with Kairi getting the second entrance, which I thought was kind of nice because this was Kairi's farewell match in NXT, which was another reason I had high expectations. I assumed they would give her a good match.
That's why it made me hate it even more.
Yeah, it's disappointing. This was
her farewell match, and it was just garbage.
Just garbage.
She didn't even fight most of the time.
Yeah, she didn't do much. She did get the second entrance, though, which I think was a sign of respect. When you're facing a champion, to get the second entrance is usually a sign of respect for you.
Yeah.
I did write down that there was a spot where Shayna got a second turnbuckle insane elbow to the back and utterly no-sold it. She got hit with an insane elbow to the back and then immediately jumped up and went after Kairi on the top rope as if nothing had happened to her just now.
Kairi was bad not because she is bad. She was bad because she had to play the stupid injury storyline that they were trying to push. I'm guessing because they want Io Shirai to take the title from Shayna Baszler down the line.
That would be my hope.
That seems to be what they're aiming for.
Yeah, that's what this whole match served to do, was set up Io and Shayna.
But it was so bad. And then Shayna Baszler herself, I know you like her for some of the stuff she's done previously, but I didn't see a whole lot of that. And so far, I've only seen about 3 matches from her, and they were all awful.
She's on a cold streak.
They were all awful.
She's definitely on a cold streak.
And this one was pathetically awful. Like, it wasn't even... She was holding so much back with her punches. I struggle to even call them punches because it was just like flaccid flapping of her arms, and they were just... She wasn't even touching Kairi half the time. Like, it was just bad. She was no-selling everything. Like... just nothing worked.
I couldn't believe what a dumpster fire this was.
It was garbage.
Because like I said, they've had some really good matches. It's one of my favorite rivalries in the women's division ever because of how good their other matches were and the character work that they usually do. And this was just really, really not good. Really a bummer for Kairi's last match in NXT.
Shayna could not... I don't even know if she can wrestle because I've seen nothing but garbage from her.
Yeah.
And I know she has an MMA background and all that, but... Ronda made the transition pretty smoothly, and I mean, she wasn't a finished product, but she did the transition pretty well. I don't think Shayna's doing it well at all. I think she's kind of awful. I mean, look at Matt Riddle. Like, the dude's amazing. He has a very strong MMA background. well, I don't know what the deal is. Why can't she make it work when these other people clearly could?
Yeah,
that's awful.
I think her style. I mean, I think the Fatal 4-Way was just a bad choice for her because her style's not suited to the Fatal 4-Way. She's a slow, methodical worker, a la Randy Orton, or even Ric Flair back in the day, where he would isolate a body part and just work it and injure it until eventually he could get into a submission to win the match. That's kind of how Ric Flair worked, and that's kind of what Shayna does, and she did some of that here. She's a slow worker, so the thing about her is she needs a long time to work and she needs one opponent. If she has a long time and one opponent, it can be a really, really good match. She hasn't been given that in some time, which is why I don't want to be too hard on her. Ideally, your top woman is going to be able to wrestle any kind of match, though. I mean, so yeah. I think
it's a problem.
I'll relent to you a little bit on that basis. The fact that your top woman should be able to wrestle any kind of match, but
she can only win one very specific type of match.
Yeah, but I don't want to say that she's not good at wrestling because of the fact that she can do that one type of match really, really well. But this was not good. So ultimately what happened is Shayna was working Kairi's elbow. Yeah. Io came out to check on her. They stopped the match because Kairi couldn't continue. Kairi essentially got thrown out of the ring. Io was checking on her. Shayna came over, threw Kairi back in the ring, kept working the elbow, was getting ready to stomp it. Io jumped in to make the save. Kairi gets disqualified. Shayna's goons, Jessamine Duke and Marina Shafir, attacked Io. Yeah. And then they kind of made Io watch while Shayna did stomp Kairi's elbow. So, I don't know. It was just...
I mean, the idea and principle works, but it just didn't work in this match. Nothing was working. I don't think the goons for Shayna Baszler, I forget their names, but the two women that are with her,
Duke and Shafir.
I think they both suck worse than Shayna. They're horrible. I think like Shayna's good at the promo stuff, but bad at everything else for me. But her goons are bad at everything.
They're really bad.
They're bad at everything.
And they are really green, so I want to give them that. But Marina Shafir in particular might be the worst wrestler in the company.
I think NXT's
she's
women division is in trouble if they keep that belt on Shayna for too much longer. Yeah. Hopefully Io takes it quickly.
Hopefully. And Io is definitely in position to elevate the women's match product because she is, of
Fingers
course,
crossed.
in my opinion, in the conversation for the best women's wrestler on the planet also.
Yeah, she's great. I gave it a 5 out of 10, and all of that is because of the first match. I would have given this show a 0 if it would have been just Shayna Baszler versus Kairi Sane. So I hated it. I hated it.
Dang. I gave it 8.5 on the basis of Murphy Dream being one of my trademark bangers.
Yeah. It was only 50% of the show, though.
I really like Johnny and Adam Cole's.
I gave it 100% for that 50.
I like Johnny Champion and Adam Cole's promo also.
I did.
So I like
Raging
that.
Bitch voice. Good lines. Raging Bitch voice.
And there was just nothing else that I really had to complain about until the main event, which was so bad it took 1.5. It took more than a full letter grade off the show how bad that main event was because Kairi deserved a better send-off match at the very least.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if you are going to have her lose and get beat down, you got to give her a better match.
I'm not even the biggest Kairi fan. I like her. I think she's an awesome wrestler, but that was just horrible. It's just a horrible way to send her off.
It was a bad taste in the mouth on her last.
Your favorite product.
Yeah, terrible.
Just bad.
So I'll run us through NXT UK real quick. The opening match. So this was from the WrestleMania Access tapings. So the opening match was the Coffey Brothers versus Humberto Carrillo and Raul Mendoza. Really fun match. As always, whenever Humberto Carrillo is involved in a match, it's fun. I really like this guy. He's super talented. Impossibly handsome. Just Aiden English can tell you because he has a huge man crush on the guy, which is becoming a very funny storyline. But super fun. Raul Mendoza was really impressive. This was my first experience with him. He had some good high flying stuff. Obviously, another luchador. Coffey Brothers predictably picked up the W. They needed a win. They've kind of been eating losses both as a tag team and as singles competitors for some time now, so kind of restoring their credibility a little bit. We had Cassius Ohno cut a promo on Ligero. Cassius Ohno quickly growing on me. I think he's a really good character actor. He's really good at being the sort of deluded, narcissistic fat bully on the playground.
Doyle rules.
I think he just does it so well. He just... I never feel like
cheese thighs.
I never feel like he's acting when he's cutting these promos. So I'm
wear pants.
Cassius Ohno's going on me. Although it would be ideal if he had pants. We also got a vignette of Walter and Pete Dunne, their build, and then their eventual match. We had Jordan Devlin showing to not be so impressed with that, and so a potential tease of Jordan Devlin versus Walter. Yes, fucking please.
Although their styles are very at odds, I wonder how that would work out.
But they're so good individually.
They are.
I just
they
feel
are
like,
great individually.
I just feel like they can make it work somehow. And, we don't want two brawlers against each other, as we learned with Ono Walter.
Very true.
Then we had a match between Kona Reeves and Dave Mastiff. This was Mastiff's first TV match in a while. I can't remember the last time I saw Mastiff. I can't really remember his last match on NXT UK TV, so it was good to see him. He got a surprisingly good crowd reaction. This WrestleMania Access crowd seems like they're hit and miss on which NXT UK talents they really know. But for some reason, they were really hot for Mastiff. And I was kind of digging it. It added something to the match that they just really wanted to see him win. It was a pretty slow pace. There wasn't anything special about the match. But Mastiff, kind of pulled out some of his typical big man offense. What Kevin Owens calls the cannonball is Mastiff's Into the Void, which is his finishing maneuver. So he hit the Into the Void on Kona Reeves to get a W. I think this was really just a setup for what happened after the match, which was Wolfgang from Gallus kind of got in Mastiff's face, and they were about to brawl before they were pulled apart. So maybe there will be a story there. A storyline for Dave Mastiff, which is nice. But surprisingly good crowd reaction was really the story of that one. So Good for you, Access.
Surprising.
Then we had Casey Catanzaro versus Rhea Ripley, a match where right when I heard it was happening, I was like, hell yeah. This is a perfect clash of people and styles and characters, just a total babyface hero that always gets a good crowd reaction, and Casey Catanzaro, who's also very small, versus a big mean bully in Rhea Ripley. So really, really nice contrast between these two. Crowds just love Casey. I never watched American Ninja Warrior, but apparently plenty of other people did, because Casey gets great reactions no matter where she goes.
Yeah.
Even from casual crowds, and I think that's why. But some pretty typical stuff. Casey got to show off her athleticism a little bit, show some of the cool stuff that she can do that other people just can't. Rhea got to show off her bullying and her power, of course, with such a tiny opponent who's also so loved and sweet and everything. So, a pretty typical bully versus underdog face match.
Yeah.
But Rhea did look decisive in victory here.
Good.
Which I think was to be expected and makes sense for these two characters at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
So Rhea did hit the Riptide and get the pin, and then Casey went to the medical wing afterward, and the camera followed her, and Rhea came after and got in Casey's face a little bit in there, and then Piper Niven showed up and kind of chased Rhea off. So still building that tension between Piper and Rhea, which could eventually lead to something, which unfortunately will be eventually because Rhea's out injured. But this was a fun match, and I was really happy to see those two match up. And I thought the characters played perfectly into what the other one does well. But Rhea was definitely a decisive winner, so Casey did not get a build in this match. This was a Rhea building match.
Yeah.
And then in the main event, we had our NXT UK Tag Team Champions, the Grizzled Young Veterans, versus Amir Jordan and Kenny Williams. This was a really, really good match. It wasn't quite a banger, but it was a semi-banger. It wasn't even a semi-banger. It was just a good match.
Wow.
It was a good match.
A lot of illusions here.
Yes, I was teasing it a little bit, but not quite. It was a good match, though. I really like both of these tag teams consistently put on really good matches, no matter who they're against. So they played off each other really well. It ended when the Grizzled Young Veterans took it. There were a couple of times where we really thought Williams and Jordan were going to get the win. There were a couple of times where we really thought a 3 count was coming, and it just got interrupted in time, and they really did a good job with the camera angles, making sure you didn't see the guy that was going to come in and break it up, because you really thought the pin was going to happen until he just came out of nowhere, just flung his body out from off camera into the frame. So they did that a couple times. Several near falls for Amir Jordan and Kenny Williams. Really, really fun match. Everybody got to show off what they do well. And in the end, the veterans held on to their titles by taking an intentional count out, because of course, when you have the champion's advantage, you can take a disqualification or a count out loss and still keep your titles. So it's my expectation with that kind of finish that we're going to see these tag teams go at it again, which I would welcome.
Sure.
I hope they have another UK takeover event at some point this year. That seems like it would be a prime candidate for that event. And then just before we went off the air in NXT UK, Pete Dunne cut a quick promo where he recapped his long path to the title, his extended title reign, his pride in the UK brand, and referencing the fact that he was the centerpiece and the foundation of this brand, which he still is. All of it absolutely true. And then he vowed to get his title back from Walter. at some point in time. So keep an eye out for that rematch. It's been alluded to several times. Nothing's been officially scheduled for TV or a pay-per-view, but I expect it's going to happen at some point. So NXT UK, I gave an 8.5 this week, which is higher than I normally grade NXT UK. Really good wrestling every match. I really liked. Catanzaro versus Ripley, I really thought stood out a little bit, just because it was such an interesting clash of two up-and-coming stars in the women's division.
Just sad that Ripley's injured because,
yeah,
once again, every time there's a little bit of steam, something happens, or something gets shuffled, and sucks.
So depressing.
Sucks because she's great.
She's so fantastic, and I can't wait for her to move to the main roster, but I really want to see that feud with Piper Niven first, because I think, the women's division doesn't have a lot of hoss fights, and that would be a good hoss fight that I want to see. So 8.5.
NXT UK, they don't have a women's title, right?
They do.
Do they?
Yeah, yeah. Toni Storm holds it now. It's recent. It was recently introduced.
Okay.
Just about, I want to say 6 months ago, something like that. Toni Storm won the inaugural women's champion, or Rhea Ripley was the winner of the inaugural women's championship, and then she feuded with Toni Storm over it, who took the title from her, and Toni Storm is now the reigning champion. So it is a new championship.
Gotcha.
So they're still building the women's division over there in the UK. But good showing. Good showing overall. One of their better showings in recent weeks, I think.
Awesome. So that wraps up the Superstar Shakeup week and the accompanying shows. We will get into last week's products. Again, we're recording a little bit late, but we'll get into last week's products on the next episode. We'll probably record, in a few days here. Really want to thank you for sticking with us and listening to the show. Please let us know what you think about the Superstar Shakeup. What do you think could have been better? What do you think should have happened, or what do you think shouldn't have happened as far as the shakeup goes? Again, there's a handful of guys that we talked about shaking up that immediately went back to the respective parties. In particular, Alistair Black went over to SmackDown.
Andrade.
Splitting up Ricochet. Andrade went back to SmackDown, which means we got another Finn Balor Andrade matchup, which was pretty cool. Spoilers for next week. And those are the big ones, right?
Those are the ones that they moved back. They did move Cesaro over to Raw, which wasn't announced at the shakeup time.
Yeah.
So I think that was the other big move as far as someone that was moved post shakeup without an announcement.
And they had to move somebody because, quite frankly, just everybody went to SmackDown, and they were already kind of overloaded for their 2-hour program. But I'm glad that they broke up Ricochet. I wish they would have broke up Rusev and Nakamura, but can't always get everything I want, especially when Big V is running the program. So, but overall, I was pretty pleased. I was pretty happy with what they did, and I think they addressed a lot of the weaknesses, much like the Bengals draft. They may not have done anything showy, but they addressed pretty much every need.
The Bengals had almost as many weaknesses to address as Raw.
How dare you? Not the Browns. All right. So, without further ado, let's get out of here. Again, we're on Twitter at HTBVids. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/hitthebooks. Our website is htbvids.com, where you can find links to everything, including all of the feeds that you can listen to, podcast services, YouTube channel. We're on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, YouTube. We have a Patreon, patreon.com/hitthebooks. That does contribute both for the Hit the Books program and the Hit the Mats program. So don't feel like you need to find a different one. We need more promo shots for Dan, so that's why he's not on all the stuff yet. We just don't have good shots with good cameras, but we'll get those out before too long. And quite frankly, Emery and I need to update our pictures too. They're a little old. I think that's everything, hopefully. Yep, I think that's everything. So, once again, thank you for sticking with us. We'll see you next week. We love you. We got a lot of wrestling coming up. A lot of wrestling. See you next week.
Okay, that's right.